Good afternoon instead of good morning. It's Bob Branch for another edition of the Daily Devo. The reason why I didn't post this morning was I completely spaced. I have no better excuse than that. I just completely spaced on creating a post for this morning, and I believe that the Lord was speaking to me something that was a continuance of what I talked about yesterday in the Sunday sermon, and that is that what contaminates you. And I talked about this idea of TV consumption and things of that sort, but at least here in Southern California, and perhaps it's that way, throughout the rest of the world or through the rest of the U.S., but I think that there's also an issue, not just with taking in images in terms of TV and contaminants that pollute us. And then when so much garbage is stored up inside of us, we should not be surprised when it's garbage that comes out of us. The scripture actually talks about these things, and I want to just address this. I think that this is a little bit of a hot topic. It was, at least in my household when I discussed it with my daughters, but that is that how we actually observe the opposite sex and what we let our eyes do, what we let our eyes focus on, different kinds of things like that. And I think that there is a physical, real world kind of a dynamic that we go through that scripture actually addresses numerous times. At the beginning of 1 John, not at the beginning, but in chapter 2 of 1 John, John says, "Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, that is what's passing away, the lust of the eyes, those things that I take in with my eyes, and the pride of life come not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever." So the lust of the eyes, that's the focal point of what we're talking about here, what you take in with your eyes. And then Jesus actually kind of alludes to this in a little bit of a cryptic way that made a lot more sense for them then than it does for us now, but it still is relevant. Here in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 6, he says, in 6:22, he says, "The eye is the lamp of the body." It's the light-giving thing. If the eye is healthy, if your eyes are healthy, your body will be full of light. If your eyes are unhealthy, your body will be full of darkness. You guys know what I'm talking about. You take in all of this stuff with your eyes, and you start to become full of darkness instead of full of light. If the light in you is darkness, then how great is that darkness? And so we've got this stuff that we focus on with our eyes. The last verse in this, it would be Job 31:1. It's Job's defense to the Lord of, hey, I've done all of these things to try to be faithful to you, but still there's a potent kind of a little axiom that Job says, in Job 31:1, I have made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully upon a woman. So all of this said, I think that there is responsibility on both parts, on what we do, what we allow our eyes to take in, what we allow our gaze to focus upon. I believe it was the book Every Man's Battle, where the author actually talks about the idea of the bounce, that for guys that struggle with lust, that you just don't allow your eyes to fix on anything, you just bounce it. You just bounce your eyes off of that you don't focus in on that. I remember at the gym that I work out at, every once in a while I would take a class, and I particularly appreciated actually when the gym, when the trainers that were doing the class actually dressed modestly. And there are ways of dressing modestly. In this, there's a dynamic of what we allow ourselves to take in with our eyes. My understanding is that women are not quite as susceptible, but that trend is growing. That the lust in the female population is going up. So here's the reality that guys, you and I, we need to take responsibility for what we do with our eyes, what we allow our eyes to focus on. Ladies, you need to take responsibility for what you do with your eyes as well. Both men and women, we need to be conscious of how we are dressing in order, and what we're dressing like, what kind of message is that sending? What is it doing to the opposite sex? And I think that this goes both ways, and it's something that we actually have to think seriously about. I remember with my daughter, Hannah, she and I were bonking heads in a very serious way when she was in high school. And part of the deal was on some of the things that she was wearing. And as a dad, I just had to say, I'm uncomfortable with some of the things that you're wearing. And she just pushed back like a crazy person. And in that, we got into these conversations. At one point in time, our relationship was so broken, and I just said, hey, look, I'd like to buy you a prom dress. So And she's like, oh, great. And it was this, we were not doing well. And actually, this was, I think, the turning point for us. But I said, I want to take you out and buy a prom dress. And she's like, I don't want you to decide what kind of prom dress I buy. And I said, well, that's fine. I am buying. And so if I go with you to buy the dress and help you decide, I pay for the dress. If I don't go, you pay for the dress. Well, lo and behold, Dad goes. Dad actually gets invited to go. And what ends up happening is the first, we're, I think, at Macy's or someplace like that, and she pulls out a couple of muumuus, a couple of big tents, and says, oh, Dad, is this what you think, really is the way that I should look? And I'm like, no, not at all. I said, I think the female shape is beautiful, but I think that there's a way of what you wear that draws respect and honor and things that actually look sexy and that the guy's imagination doesn't go in the direction that you want it to go in. So let's look at some dresses that flatter your shape, but that don't say something that you don't want to be saying, that actually command respect, that are elegant, that are respectable. And so we looked, and she tried on a whole bunch of dresses. She ended up coming up with a really beautiful black dress in this whole thing. She looked absolutely wonderful in the dress. Everybody thought so. And as it turns out, Dad likes his girls in black dresses. And so all of my girls have lots of black dresses because when Dad's buying, so anyway, so that's how that worked with us. But we had to kind of wrestle this out and talk and open up a dialogue of what does what you're wearing say what does it do to the opposite sex? What does what you're wearing, where does that lead their thought life? And no, you can't take responsibility for everybody's thought life on everything. And there are people that are just deranged. There are people that are lust maniacs. There are people that are addicted to porn. We can't take responsibility for that, but we can take responsibility for what we wear and what that does to others as a result of what we wear. And so I want to just basically float the question out to you to start a discussion with you both on the web and in person and in your households and different things. What kinds of things do we dress with that actually, what does that do to us? And to just start that discussion so that we are actually taking a responsibility and we're taking the high road, that we're not just ignoring this, we're not just going along with whatever society says, but that we're thinking about this. I'm not looking at women to wear, high collared things and everything that are just, tense or anything of that sort. What I want to do is open up a discussion to say, that if what we are taking in with our eyes can contaminate us and can contaminate our faith and can lead us in the wrong directions, then how can we as Christians live in a world that doesn't care about these things, at least in the way that God does? How can we as Christians begin to engage in a conversation, begin to dress and to act and to think in ways that honor God with our bodies and honor God in the public square, and think about what it does to other people? So I realize that in saying these different things that I'm entering into dangerous territory, but I nevertheless want to go there because what you take in with your eyes can contaminate you. And if what you take in with your eyes brings darkness into your body is all full of darkness. And if you take in things that are full of light, then your body is full of light. And from what the scripture says, this is the preferable angle for us. So let's start the discussion. Start talking among yourselves about these things. Start thinking these things through and see where you end up with this. I'm not giving a dress code or anything of that sort. I'm simply asking, can we think thoughtfully, discuss these things? All of this is to say, I love you. I'm entering into this conversation with you as a spiritual dad because I love you, just like I did with my daughter, who I adore to this day, and it's just a really close relationship with. And each one of my daughters, we've had to have these conversations, and the reality was that they helped us to grow closer. I love you. I'm praying for you. God bless you.